Why are we existing? Why are we here? What is our purpose? What is our focus as humanity? What is our primary, divine, natural, innate duty, obligation, and responsibility as man, he, and she? We must begin to comprehend, why are we here? Why are we existing? Why are we embodied? Let's be clear. It is one basic fact that we all need to comprehend as man, he, and she. We are embodied as souls. Our soul-to-soul presence is the primary purpose, reason, and objective as to why we're here and why we need to continue the forward multiplication of our soul-to-soul relationships as man, he, and she. It is so difficult. The times have become so critical. We've just come out of a period of time of heat intensity, 110. And then it got a little better, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, back up. The drought is very serious. We've had to put so much fuel energy into pumping water and to keep the plant fuel of our existence vibrant and radiant so that it can provide us with the vitamins and minerals and nutrients necessary to fuel this brain, which is the center post of soul-to-soul communication, or is the center post of self-centered communications. How are you going to push your love supreme unless you're able to get that encode within your mental, physical, and spiritual consciousness from a child? Because if you're born, you are going to manifest your consciousness based upon what has occurred in the womb of that mother, plus the factors that are encoded within the sperm cells of that male, that father. And even more importantly, you're going to develop your attitudes, your values, your behaviors, and your beliefs based upon what you meet when you come to the planet. And a child born within that inner sphere of that monotheism nature that feeds, sees, and breathes self-deifying individualism will be a self-centered, individualistic being, no matter how we want to think about it or what we have to say in whatever our social, economic, religious states of expression. That child will be born, groomed, conditioned off of a mindset that perpetuates a self-centered, individualistic being. It is a heck of a challenge. We have to find ways and means to amass a new encode into first the mother spirit. But then if the male is not guiding and protecting the mother spirit, then is it he that has to be first? This is a heck of a challenge. Because if we're talking about going forward to multiply every offspring and vibration of the generation next into divine social, economic, family, community, soul-to-soul relationships, we got to get both of them in sync and in focus and in order. That is man, he, and she. And that's a very difficult challenge because actually, and I have actually experienced this. The experience is you birth daughtrins with a principle of going forward to multiply divine social, economic, family, community order. They became the branch. Those daughters then have to mate. Oh, mighty challenge. Now the mate, you're coming from a toxic parallel. And the feminist, she's been birthed within a parallel, and the parents came, the mothers came from a toxic parallel. I'm talking about straight facts. Now, to get her to detox and purge to heal enough to be able to birth her offspring, that's a hell of a challenge. Why? Because it takes a while to do that. And you can't sit and wait for a very long time because the female only carry eggs for X amount of time according to what is going on with our biological state on the planet at this particular point in time. And we can't wait several generations for her to get clear and clean enough to birth. So you got to birth offspring from wherever she's at based upon some kind of whole soul detox, purging, and healing process as best you can under the circumstances. So then you come with a situation where the feminine, if you're talking about that, and I realize that we cannot even talk about that. We're talking about a serious crisis on this planet. We're talking about what we call him, the great primate, and his natural and innate state of responsibility to the feminine, and her natural and innate state of responsibility to her sisterins in a vibration of knowing full well that we're in a crisis. And we better fix it up. Yeah, humanity is in a fix, a 666 fix, perpetuated through lower and lesser socio-economic tricks, regardless of the reasoning of any living being. The most supreme seen and unseen essence of masculine and feminine energy is the real deal, the wholeness of our existence. And from there emerge the sacred ancestral soulful presence of man, he and she, and all living things thereof. Now, if we look at that, we've been put in a box. Now, when I think about the Osiris Set and Nebuchadnezzar story, and I think about Set, that opposing younger nature of masculinity who was self-centered and individualistic in his every thought, every reason, every action, and the fact that what he did was tricked his brother and put him in a box and then got his disciples and they banged the box and closed it down. We're in a box. And the feminine, you can hear some of the feminines calling. The ones who have that sacred vibration, trying to find the lost bits and pieces and parts of that male who was put in a box and chopped up and spread his body into the winds. And we're trying to get this thing back together. One heck of a challenge. No joke. It is such a challenge that most simply say, hey, I'm just going to enjoy my little life while I'm here. And that is a downer. What's your little life? You are part of a collective mass of energy, a speck within the wholeness of our existence, and you're trying to enjoy your speck. Something is wrong. We're in a challenge. And we got to fix this challenge. Most don't even want to know about it being a challenge. They want to go and see how they can have that next sexual pleasure. They want to go and see how they can get that new dress. They want to go and see how they can get in that new car. They want to go and see how they can flout. Somebody want to go see the Eiffel Tower. So want to go this any old number of things. Focus on the individualistic nature of existing and thinking that, hey, he must be gone crazy. I'm going to enjoy my life. And the reality is, you only have that speck for a few moments in that body of flesh. Don't you realize that there's something greater than what you think you are? You are soul. Now, you can be a lost soul all the rest of your existence into oblivious nothingness. Or you can focus on finding your soul journey into a holistic living reality. Now, these are the challenges. They are serious. And when you get the offsprings, and you finally get them to a point where you get some kind of collective reasoning, oh my goodness, then you got to find mate relationships. Now you got to start over again. Hey, Seth did this. That satanic nature that opposed divine order did this. But somehow we have to undo this 666 fix. We got to do it. There's a pathway of how to do it. But to put the bits, pieces, and parts back together again is a challenge. Because once you get this finally at the point where you can reason with those generations at this level of that tree of life, family, community, order, unless you have all of them start to mate with each other, which ain't necessarily the most vibrant thing to do, because we need to go forward and expand and grow and develop and emerge. Therefore, the next phase is, now you got to take the problems of somebody else produced by their parents, who in most instances are single parent mamas, or mamas who had somebody there who got his private sojourn that he owned, or however way it be. Mama with no divine guidance and protection. And when you introduce the idea of divine guidance and protection to her, she don't even know what that means in concept. Have no reality about it. Spends the mass majority of the time wrestling and struggling, thinking you're trying to override her own whims, wants, and desires. And really, self ain't going for that. So, it is a heck of a challenge. But we got to do it. We have to find ways and means to peacefully, in divine order, coexist into divine socioeconomic family community order. Co-masculine he and feminine she. We're talking about man, he and she. We're talking about the divine union. We're talking about a holistic living presence of masculine and feminine energy. Just as within its origin, we're talking about those elements that is an absolute necessity to come together for us to go forward and multiply. And no matter what anyone say, man, he, by his own self, is not going to multiply nothing but oblivious nothingness. And she, in the same mechanism, oblivious nothingness. Somebody got to step up to the plate. God, I'm begging, please, somebody, you all, this is serious. Planet getting hot. It ain't no joke. Don't matter if somebody say, don't use this word or don't use that word. Mama Nature is going through a heating cycle. And it's being intensified by the misuse and abuse of her natural and innate order. And unless we work to fix quick, fast, and in a hurry, there ain't going to even be no time to fix the masculine and feminine relationship. And so that means we got to be fast and quick and in a hurry. And we have to be able to be within a green environment. We have to be able to plant more trees of life. We got to be able to get that next generation to breathe, seed, and feed a new consciousness. We have to be able to get that next generation to breathe, seed, and feed a new consciousness so that we can get the generation after that to carry it a little step further. To breathe, seed, and feed a greater sense of a new consciousness. In other words, this is a spiritual, holistic, living soul journey. If we've lost our central focus as to why we're on the planet, if we have not comprehended clearly and beyond the shadow of a doubt that we are souls within a soul-to-soul sojourn to forward the natural and innate state of existence of man, he and she, humanity. If that's not clear when we begin to activate with each other, then what will come out of that is a lack of clarity. And that lack of clarity, that lack of holistic living focus will not allow the central focus and purpose for our existence to manifest. We're talking about the necessity to follow the principles, morals, and values that will manifest divine socioeconomic family community order. That is, first, consuming of wholesome and healthy life energy so that one will be able to maintain the temple in which one exists in as a soul, to get the ultimate level of operation out of that temple. We're talking about the body. You see, we have come to be conditioned to think that we are, a self. And that self has an identity, that identity has a name, and that's who one be. And we are excluding, have been groomed and conditioned to exclude the fact that we start as the soulful essence of life. We have naturally and innately been encoded to push a love supreme. Why? Because when we push a love supreme, we're actually pushing the doorway, the pathway of our own existence into a higher state of conscious thought and reasoning and action. If we comprehend that we are tree of life beings, if we can get the comprehension that we are geared and designed biologically to consume of the fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, herbs, and spice, if we can come to the realization that to consume like a predator will create a predator mentality inside of a being that is non-predatorial in our natural and innate state of being. It does not mean that we're not protective, because the male has been birthed to be the guiding and protecting force of the women and the children. What it means is that we then think first of our survival as man, he, and she. And within that, we would not gear toward a war culture. We would gear toward a higher peace conscious culture. Conflict, confusion, and chaos is the perpetuating energy of a war culture. That culture that actually opposes divine socioeconomic family community order. You see, within a warring culture, you got individuals who are predators by their state and condition. And within that vibration, what's going to come out of it is destruction, conflict, confusion, chaos. And one will seek to feel like, to the victor goes the booty and the spoils. And when we say that the problem has been identified, what we must comprehend is we must activate a whole life solution. Man, he, and she must come to a bonding relationship, consuming of the fruits of the tree of life, to be able to forward a new consciousness into the generation next. Man, he, and she has to first learn to respect each other within their natural and innate state of being, and that is not going on right now. And if you prevent the rise of a green earth solar conscious messiah, that is the male, then what will happen is the encodes will be placed into the female and to the social order to disable the male, to break him, to keep him at a state of a lower and lesser consciousness, where his attitudes, his values, his behaviors, and his beliefs will reflect a lower and lesser state of consciousness. His indulgements, how he look at the feminine, will be from a lower and lesser state of consciousness. Therefore, the feminine she will be looked upon as a piece to conquer. She will be looked upon as a pleasure point. His values of her will be, man, she's luscious. She's a sexy little mama. Oh, she's hot. Too hot to trot. Or he will say, some nice hips on her. He cannot see the soulful essence of who she be, because she has been groomed and conditioned and born to be anything less than the soulful essence of who she be, and then she's the birthplace of he and she. Therefore, what she will produce is this kind of male consciousness without even realizing that's what she's producing. He will come out worshiping and idolizing physical presentations of a human being and not the soulful essence of who she be or who he be. His values, his attitudes, his behavior, his beliefs will reflect upon whatever that social conscious conditioning is perpetuating. So he would prefer seeing a female who wants to be a carbon copy or some kind of copy of whatever the image that's been projected over TV and the other various platforms of commercialization, rather than to deal with the natural and innate state of the feminine essence who will birth the essence of who we be. Now we can birth as the essence of a love supreme, or we can birth as the essence of conflict, confusion, and chaos. And what is going on? Clearly, what has happened is the birthing of a conflicting, confusing, chaotic nature of energy. And we got to fix that. In order to fix it, we're going to have to get some models. Because the child learns by example and not by words. So if the child do not see any role models, then ain't nothing going on but the rent. And it would not be going on if the money wasn't spent. So the reality is we must develop role models. We cannot sit up and talk about divine social, economic, family, community order and do not take all the necessary time and energy to put together that platform as an example for a child to see. Otherwise, we are only perpetuating conflict, confusion, and chaos. So, when it comes to solutions, we must come to recognize first things first. Once we have gotten clear on the fact that we need to consume the most wholesome and healthiest tree of life fuel that we can consume, we must then focus on the point that we must put together vibrant masculine and feminine relationships. If we do not put together vibrant masculine and feminine relationships, we must become clear that what we will produce is non-vibrant offsprings. Offsprings who will be dull when it comes to whole life relationships. They will become dummied down and ignorant of any of the principles, morals, and values of a holistic living way of life. And they will idolize and worship the state and condition of disorder. What they consume will be glorified within the disorder consciousness. The basic elements of mental, physical, and spiritual disorder and disease will be perpetuated like a plague. And that's what's going on. One will not be able to discern the fact that, hey, we have to plant more trees. Too much has been knocked down to satisfy that self-centered capitalistic mindset. Too much destruction of Mother Earth has manifested. And if we don't hurry and fix it, we're going to vanish. So if we cannot fix these masculine and feminine relationships, we ain't going nowhere. The basic factor is that with the masculine relationship, he has been groomed to look at the female as a lower and lesser being. She is inferior to he. Therefore, she's the weaker sex. She is any of the demoralizing lower and lesser states of reasoning that we can think of. And guess what? She got that in her consciousness, so she's birthing it right back into the next generation, and she is the penetrating one because she's the first teacher. That's right. It's all happening in her womb. So even when he, of a lower and lesser mental state of consciousness, is busy getting it, he's ejaculating a nature of energy that's not even thinking about forward multiplication of divine social, economic, family, community order. He's thinking about getting his nut, getting his groove on. He's thinking about a moment of pleasure and moving on like a rolling stone. That's the culture. That's what's been perpetuated. That's what's going on. That is the norm. Isn't that a mess? And we got to fix this mess. If we cannot get a clear-cut relationship of who we be as man he and man she, then there's no possibilities of our survival beyond conflict, confusion, and chaotic self-destruction. What we must do is realize that it is about our survival. And since it's about our survival, we got to go a step further. The male, you have the sperm. It has the ability to encode living energy. The female, she has the ovaries. It has the ability to encode whole life energy. We must be selective. We cannot look at the female anymore, brothers, and look and say, goodness gracious, look at them hips. What does that mean? Oh, wow, she sure is beautiful. Physical context is what we're speaking of when we talk like that. We have to get deeper. We have to go to the point of recognizing that we must encode a greater selection process. The reality is we have to begin to think about the proper use of our whole life energy for the survival of humanity. We have to be selective in our breeding process. We have to get systems in order to assist the being to detox, purge, and heal to the point that one can carry whole life energy or some part thereof so we can go forward and multiply this life presence, or we will see our fatal end. And some people say, oh man, hey, when you're gone, you're gone. Well, really, once you've come to know that this is a soul journey that we are on, and it is the movement of soul to soul life energy, whole soul essence of life energy, then we begin to comprehend that that mindset that spoke that strange and foreign things to I is a mindset that is self-centered, focused on self-deified individualism, and have no reality of his or her presence upon this earth. You see, we did not come as a self. Nope. It did not happen. We came through collective conscious energy movement from way back. DNA after DNA after DNA after ancestor after ancestor after ejaculation after birth till we got to whoever you be today. And you have an obligation, a divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility to the next forwarding. What's our purpose? Why are we up on the planet? Our purpose is to go forward and multiply every offspring and vibration of who we be into the generation next. So, are we interested in multiplying toxic disorder? Are we interested in multiplying sexual fantasies, delusions, and dreamland versions of lust? Or are we interested in perpetuating a holistic living way of life that will guarantee a forwarding of that soul-to-soul essence of who we be? First, we got to comprehend that this is a soul journey. Then we got to comprehend that it is a soul-to-soul relationship that we must be about. Once that's comprehended, then it becomes very clear, easy, and obvious to understand that divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility that we have to the next soul, to the next being, has been encoded in our existence from time immemorial. And that we've gotten off base and off track because there's been all kinds of conflict, confusion, and chaotic energies intruding and invading on our natural and innate state of being, and it's caused disorder, disruption, interruption. And we got to be about fixing that right here and right now. This is a particular time and space and place for humanity, and we got to be about this. We got to be about fixing this problem. Now, there's not a whole lot of folks who are going to be about fixing this problem. They too tied up in their self-centered, ego-driven, individualistic pleasure. I'm talking about the sacred few of the few of the few. We have to hear the call, the soul call. And as souls, we have to have the divine humility, the respect, the grace. We have to comprehend the principles of Ma'at. We got to comprehend karma. And we have to put a full focus on aligning those holistic living soul-to-soul energies into a point of origin where we can interconnect and forward the very best of who we be into every offspring and vibration of the generation next. And we cannot do that unless we manifest divine social, economic, family, community order. Those parents who have offspring who are subject to that toxic disorder have to comprehend this right now. Hey, we need to all find a way and means to get together for real. And this is a soul call. It is a soul call. And we must answer that soul call. We have to find ways and means to be able to take the best of the feminine she and give guidance and protection over she so that she can birth a new planetary existence of soul-to-soul beings. And they have to get a reorientation toward a natural and innate state of masculine and feminine intercourse. We must be about life, whole life energy, consuming of holistic living, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, herbs, and spice, perpetuating holistic living relationships, masculine and feminine relationship within its biological realities, through divine social, economic, family, community order. And then we are given blessing, thanks, praise, and appreciation to those generations, thousands and tens of thousands of years before our existence, hundreds of thousands of years before our physical presence. We're giving acknowledgement to the sacred ancestral eldership of who we be. And in that way, we're calling those blessings, those gifts, those lessons back to us so we can forward that into the next generation of carriers of whole soul energy. So what are we going to do? Because action speaks louder than words. Words have been spoken. It is time for holistic living action by man, he and she, if we wish to survive these times. A test for the essence of who we be as whole soul beings. Think about that.